So here I am, kneeling down in the middle of my granny's wardrobe. Well, that's what it smells like to me. This is lavender, and it wasn't just a wardrobe, it was the drawer with her smalls in as well, and I'm sure you do it. Lavender is great to put in drawers of clothing, keeps them fresh, but it's lovely in the garden. It's a very tactile plant and wonderfully aromatic. Great for bees and butterflies. It's an all-round good doer in a sunny spot and well-drained soil, and very easy to propagate if you just take a little bit of care. Go over it round about flowering time now and seek out shoot tips like this that haven't flowered. Now here we've got a little collection of about 5 shortish shoot tips. Some of them are quite long, and I'll tell you about those in a mo, but with these shorter ones, about 3 inches long, tear them away from the main stem like that, with that little thing there that's called a heel. I'm just going to do sort of 3 or 4 of those so that I've got it with that bit of older tissue. So those are heel cuttings. There are others here that are a bit long, and them I'm going to take my knife out and just slice off, taking about 4 or 5 inches. So there's 2 different types of cuttings here, these longer ones and the heel cuttings, both of which will make new plants if I can tear myself away from this glorious scent. It's not just your lunch that sealable food containers are good for. They're good for popping cuttings in until you're ready to insert them. Just keeps them fresh, stops them wilting. There they sit, the 2 different types. The ones that I cut off straight as shoots, and the others that I took with a heel, this little bit of older stem. The reason for having a heel, if you can get one, is that the concentration of rooting hormones there is quite high, and that means it gives you an even better chance of getting the things to root. So let's do a bit of preparation. First, on this one, it's the same with all of them in terms of the bottom leaves. Run your fingers down and just peel them off. They're only going to rot if they're underneath the compost. I'll just take another one off there as well. And that heel there, if there's a wispy bit on the end, you can see it just coming away, just slice that off with a really sharp knife, the very, very end. There we are. And then I'm going to dip it into hormone rooting powder, but to get it to stick, dip it in your watering can, flick off the worst, and then into there. It doesn't need a great clod of rooting powder, just a tiny bit. This is compost, cuttings compost. It's got lots of perlite in it. Anything that just keeps it open and well drained will do. And this cutting then, along with its friends, I will dib in around the edge of the pot. Now here, there's quite a lot of floppy top. Because it's got no roots to sustain it, you can nip that out with your knife, just the very, very tip. And that is a lovely cutting with a heel. Now, when it comes to the other kind, here, without a heel, just cut straight off from the plant. Again, strip the leaves off, the lower ones, and then make your cut just underneath. Can you see these little, where the leaves were? Make your cut immediately below where a pair of leaves have been removed. And again, that's because there, where you can just see the leaf bases, there's a greater concentration of rooting hormone once more, so that means it'll have a better chance. And that's quite a damp end, so don't need to do anything more than dip it in there and work these in around the edge of the pot. A mixture here of both types of cuttings, some heel and some just stem cuttings. If you want to see which does best, keep them in separate pots. Hormone rooting powder doesn't guarantee that a cutting will root, but it certainly improves its chances by providing hormones on that cut surface which encourage roots to develop. Pencil's really useful. Let's have another heel. Just a refresher on what we did there. So bottom leaves off. There they go. That one goes. Any bits of dead tissue take off because they'll only rot. And then a little trim on the very, very end. You can see how it's separated. Just to take that end bit off. Dip it in the water. Dip it in the rooting powder. Flick it off. Insert it around the edge of the pot. There we are. 4 cuttings. With a label, always good to remind yourself which variety it is. This is Hidcote, a good dwarf lavender. Stick that down the side of the pot and then just gently water them in. And that settles the compost around the base of the stem. Because what you're trying to avoid now is desiccation, drying out. Look, it's running out the bottom. That shows me it's really had a good soak. You're trying to keep these as fresh as you possibly can to encourage them to root so they don't transpire, they don't lose moisture. And one of these little propagators is brilliant. You can put a poly bag over them, but with lavender, they're slightly downy leaves, and like pelargoniums, which have got down on them, if you keep them in too close an atmosphere in a polythene bag, they can start to rot. So I reckon this is better. That just about fits in there, that cutting. Keep your eye on them, don't let them dry out, and in a few weeks' time, towards the end of the summer, early autumn, they will have rooted. You can then pot them up individually, grow them on through the winter and plant them out come the spring. I wouldn't put those out in the garden until next spring. If you can just keep them sheltered from the worst of the weather and the cold and the frost, then you've got young plants, new plants, you know what the variety is, and they cost you absolutely nothing.